The federal government has urged the Solomon Islands to ditch a security agreement with China that could allow the Asian superpower a military presence much closer to Australia. Pacific Minister Zed Seselja made an urgent pre-election dash to the Pacific archipelago, about 1,700 kilometres off the coast of Queensland, to discuss the controversial deal, elements of which have already been initialed, according to the Solomon Islands government. The senator said Australia recognised its neighbours' right to make sovereign decisions about its security, but respectfully asked Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare and other ministers to reconsider, in a meeting on Wednesday, what a Chinese military base in Solomon Islands would mean for Australia. Minister for International Development and the Pacific Zed Seselja flew to Solomon Islands. Photo, Alex Ellinghausen. We have asked Solomon Islands respectfully to consider not signing the agreement and to consult the Pacific family in the spirit of regional openness and transparency, consistent with our region's security frameworks, he said in a statement issued on Wednesday night during a trip to Honiara. We welcome recent statements from Prime Minister Sogavare that Australia remains Solomon Islands' security partner of choice, and his commitment that Solomon Islands will never be used for military bases or other military institutions of foreign powers. He continued to stress the security support offered by Australia, New Zealand and other members of the Pacific family in recent years, particularly during violent unrest in the capital in November. Australia will always support our Pacific family, Senator Seselja said. Our view remains firmly that the Pacific family will always meet the security needs of our region. California woman Sherry Papini admits she faked her 2016 kidnapping. Solomon Islands Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare left, and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. The draft security agreement proposes giving China the right to use its forces to protect the safety of Chinese personnel and major projects in Solomon Islands, and would allow Chinese ships to visit and make stopovers on the archipelago. It has been seen as not only a potential security threat, but also a hit to Australia's diplomatic power in the region. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian said he wouldn't comment on Australia-Solomon Islands relations, but urged relevant countries to respect Chinese and Solomon sovereignty. Instead of stoking confrontation and creating division among the Pacific Island countries and the region, they should do more things that is good for regional peace, stability, and development, he said, according to a transcript of his regular press conference in Beijing. Teen in Easter show stabbing was expecting a child. Prime Minister Scott Morrison played down fears earlier this week, while opposition leader Anthony Albanese questioned why Australia had not done more to stop the deal. Why wasn't a minister dispatched to the Solomons, he said. Australia needs to step up, not just in a title, we need to step up in reality and develop those relationships with the Solomons and other nations in the Indo-Pacific. Mr. Morrison and Defence Minister Peter Dutton have both insisted they had assurances from Mr. Sogavare that China would not be allowed a military base in the Pacific nation. There was a long time when Australia used to treat the Pacific as an extension of our own country. They didn't like it, Mr. Morrison said. Countries with the highest military expenditure in the world. They didn't like being treated like that, and nor should they.